Welcome to workshop number 1 of transforming team communication. This first workshop is about discovering your leadership voice. I want you to understand how powerful and strong your voice can be in this world. So this workshop is going to walk you through the different personality types, the different voices that you may experience in life, and hopefully you can own one of those voices as a predominant voice in your life. So without further ado, let's get started. The first thing we have to realize is that everyone speaks, but not everyone is heard. And obviously we all want to be heard. We want to be understood and valued. So we need to understand what it's like to sit across from us so that we can truly be heard. Consequently, in teams, because not everyone is heard, teams function at less than 60% of their true potential. There's a lot of loss right there. Team leaders rarely, if ever, hear the truth from their people, which is scary. 82% of team members feel misunderstood or undervalued. There's a lot of potential right there for sure. Leaders undermine their influence every day without even knowing it. So we don't want to be that kind of leader. We want to make sure we're getting the best out of every person on our team to truly maximize that potential. So the question is, what if every voice around your table was truly heard, valued, and appreciated? Imagine the impact that you could make in your industry and the value you could add to those around you. It's so important that we truly take ownership of our growth. We must know ourselves so we can lead ourselves. And you'll notice this is an infinity loop because truly self-discovery and self-growth never ends. We have to understand our tendencies. We all have tendencies. They may be good, they may be bad, but we must understand them so we can harness the power of those tendencies. Those tendencies create patterns, you notice that, and then those end up creating actions. So as we're going through, we start to understand our tendencies that form our actions and therefore lead to our consequences. And that can be good and bad. How do we get there? How do we get to this place in our life, this reality? We must understand that it started with our tendencies. So if you can understand your tendencies, then you can truly find out, both positive and negatively, where and how you got to this current reality. Know yourself to lead yourself. So this is the first time we'll see all 5 voices together, and I want you to notice the voice volume on this page. So that line at the top shows how loud each voice is. The pioneer, you'll notice, is the loudest voice. And we're not talking about voice volume here. We're not talking about amount of talking. We're actually talking about forcefulness, the impact of their words. They can be very forceful. The connector is also forceful, not quite as loud as the pioneer. The guardian is a little bit less forceful. You'll notice that. The creative, and then the nurturer is the least forceful voice. A couple things I want you to think about as we're going through each of the 5 voices. Our voice is made up of all 5 voices in some way, but you want to look for that one that will stand out above the rest, and then you found your foundational voice. Number 2, some voices are more natural to us than others. So what you're trying to identify is that voice that is very natural for you, the one that you can access very easily. Maturity allows us to value the contribution of each voice and what it brings. So the goal is not to be able to be all 5 voices. I've been in workshops where that was the goal for some people. That's not our goal. We want to be able to understand and truly value each one of the voices. Number 4, nature, nurture, and choice have all played a part in this voice. So, of course, we've all been raised a certain way, we were born a certain way, and all these factors, including our choices, are affecting the voice that we are, our personality. Number 5, don't assume you know what someone else's foundational voice is. Be careful not to project. You might feel like you understand a person that you work with or someone in your family even better than they do, but let them have that self-discovery and own their personality and their voice. Number 6, don't assume you know what each word means. Just because that word contains a certain definition, allow me to define that voice as we're defining it in this workshop. So the process here is I want you to think about each voice as I describe it. I'll give you some details for each one. And then for yourself, think about whether it's green, yellow, or red. You'll notice there, the green is clearly your foundational voice. It's almost like a default pattern of communication. It's what you do naturally. The yellow it's not your foundational voice, but you can value and easily access that voice. And then red, it's not something that comes naturally. You have to work at, number 1, valuing people with that voice, or even in your own life, you don't have as easy access to that voice, and that would be red. So mark each voice as we go along, green, yellow, red. And if you don't know exactly at first, it's okay. I'm the type of person that kind of wants to hear all the voices and then go back through and mark each one. So that's the process we're going to follow. Let's jump in. The first one is nurturer. The nurturer is the champion of people, relational harmony, and values. They care deeply about people. They intuitively feel how an organization will react to a new idea. So if you want to find out how the organization will feel about an idea before you even introduce the idea, talk to a nurturer first. They have a sense of how the organization will react to a new idea. The nurturer also defends values so well. People will always come before profit. So you can see the value that a nurturer is adding to your organization because they are so people-centric. They care about people and they know what people are thinking. They function as the relational oil inside teams and organizations. So you can imagine an engine running without oil. It would be next to impossible. And so with nurturers, they're able to keep all the parts working together. And you have to imagine that some of these voices are very loud, very forceful voices, very strong. And so a nurturer is able to get everyone working together in beautiful harmony. And that is such a value to an organization. Some of the best leaders I've seen in organizations are the ones who are nurturers. They care about people and they truly understand what people are feeling. They're pragmatic realists who ask, has this really been thought through? The thing with nurturers is they have a lot of people that like them. They've taken care of a lot of people. And so they have a lot of those great relationships. And before they get behind an idea, they want to make sure that idea is going to work. And so they will ask you some of those questions to make sure before they get all the people and their friends on board with the idea, they want to make sure it's going to work for the people. They take genuine delight in celebrating the achievements of others. So what you'll notice with nurturers is they are natural team players. They don't have to work at celebrating other people. It just comes naturally to them. What a valuable asset inside of a company. One of the challenges that a nurturer will face is they can become overly resistant to change and sometimes demonstrate that passive-aggressive behavior. And because they don't want that conflict, an unhealthy nurturer is going to avoid conflict and going to kind of take care of things around the side. So they can become passive-aggressive, making those little comments, or maybe not going directly to a person. They might go to another person inside the organization and talk about that person. Obviously, this is unhealthy behavior for an organization, but it can happen when a nurturer goes into an unhealthy place, and it's natural for them because they don't want that conflict. They rarely value the contribution they make. So one of the other challenges a nurturer faces is they don't always see their value. And so you have to continue to make sure that they understand how much value they're adding to the organization. And once they understand that and they're willing to exercise their voice inside the organization or family, they will make a huge impact and understand their contribution, understanding they need to be heard. Whatever it takes for them to be heard, they must be clear and willing to speak up. So that's the nurturer voice. Rate yourself green, yellow, or red. Think about that nurturer voice. Is it something you easily access? Is it something that is clearly your foundational voice? Or is it more yellow, where you're not able to access it quite as well, but it's still there? Or is it just a red, where you just don't really understand the value, or maybe for yourself, you just don't have that voice? This is a quick snapshot of the nurture. I want to point out a couple things on here for you. That percentage of the population, we have to realize that a lot of the population, 43%, are nurturers. So a lot of people see the world through this lens, and that's important to know. They're champion of people, relational harmony, and values, as we've talked about. They have to watch out for that fear of conflict, and they may not speak out naturally. So we have to make sure that they're being heard, and the nurturer has to avoid that silence that might be tempting for them sometimes. How do you empower them? Let them speak first. Affirm their competence and the genuine value of their contribution. Get a nurturer on your team, or have a nurturer as a leader, and they will light up an organization. It'll be people-centric, it'll be powerful. So I encourage you to embrace that nurturer voice if you have it, or notice the nurturer voice on your team and truly value that voice. So the next voice we have is the creative voice. The creative is the champion of future ideas, innovation, and organizational integrity. So let's unpack it a little bit. They're conceptual architects and love to think outside the box. Inside the brain of a creative, if you could take off the top of their head, it would be very busy. Those synapses would be flying back and forth. There's a lot going on inside the brain of a creative. They function as an early warning radar system for teams, often seeing the opportunities and dangers long before everyone else. So they're very futuristic. They're thinking about 5-10 years in advance. What are some roadblocks we might face? What are some opportunities that our organization might have? So they're very futuristic in their thinking. The key for a creative, if you're working with them, is ask them. Ask them what they see as the future, what they see as the opportunities, and that question will light them up, and you truly want to hear what they have to say, because you can imagine the business growth and opportunity that lies inside of them if you just ask. They're never satisfied with the status quo. They inherently believe things can always be better. So don't tell a creative that it's good enough. They want to keep pushing on and believe that those goals can be reached, and they don't want to just reach the small goals. They want to see the big things happen. If the vision is compelling for a creative, can't is not in their vocabulary. They will find a creative way to get it done. So it broadens the term of creative beyond just an artist or someone like that. It's really someone that has creative ideas, someone that can push the vision forward because of their amazing ideas. They often struggle with the fact that people never seem to fully understand their ideas. So sometimes a creative feels misunderstood, or they feel like maybe the first thing they say, the first thing out of their mouth isn't exactly what they mean. And so it's great for a creative to surround themselves with people that can ask them those powerful questions that can help them get to the big idea and that clarity. There's a lot going on in their brain, and to clarify it, those questions are so important. So if you are creative, surround yourself with people that can ask those great questions. And if you have a creative on your team, make sure you're unlocking them and unleashing their full potential by asking those questions. They exhibit a strong social conscience and desire for personal and organizational integrity. You can see some crossover here with the nurture a little bit, where they see the value of that integrity of a company. They want a company to listen to the values of the people and to truly live by those values that they've set out. One of the challenges that a creative has is they can be internal perfectionists. They can often fail to celebrate the 90% that has been achieved, focusing rather on the 10% that hasn't. And so creative has to watch out for this tendency, because it can be very discouraging for themselves and for their team if a team gets 90% there, they're so close to that goal, but the creative is unwilling or doesn't like to celebrate unless they actually hit 100%. And so be aware of that. If your team reaches a certain goal, and maybe they don't get quite there, make sure you're still celebrating them as a creative. And that can be a tendency that a creative has. So here's a quick snapshot of what the creative does and who they are. That voice volume, you'll notice there, the population, 9%. So we're talking about a lesser of the population than a nurturer. They're champion of those future ideas, innovation, and organizational integrity. They have to watch out for that struggle to communicate effectively. And they can have those idealist, perfectionist tendencies that can hold back the progress and to value the progress that's already been made. How do you empower a creative? Don't judge them on what they say first. Allow them to keep talking, ask them those clarifying questions, and let them know that it's okay to be wrong sometimes. And that is so key with a creative. If you get nothing else from this quick snapshot, remember that. Always let them be wrong, because sometimes when you're that far in the future and you're making predictions and you have that kind of mind, you will be wrong sometimes. But the times they're right, oh, what an impact that can make for your organization. So the third voice we want to talk about is the guardian. The guardian is the champion of due diligence, resources, and efficient systems and processes. They're able to make things work. That's the way they see the world. They have a relentless commitment to truth, always asking the difficult questions. They will poke holes in an idea and keep asking those difficult questions until they can see it and all their questions have been answered. They appreciate the past as others only look towards the future. It's not that they can't see the future, but they want to say, hey, this has worked in the past. Why are we changing? What is the reason for it? And if you have a good enough reason for a guardian, they'll move forward. But their first nature is to make sure that we're not moving away from something that has truly worked in the past. They accept as personal the commitment to deliver projects on time and on budget. What a valuable asset to a company when a guardian is healthy, they're asking the difficult questions, and they're bringing things on time and on budget. It's so crucial for a company to embrace the guardians on their team. They have the ability to detach decision-making from personal sentiment, so they will make the right decision. Even if that means that they have to tell someone they're wrong or there's some kind of challenge there, they will make the right decisions. And that's part of their challenge at times, where they have to recognize that people are valuable. Getting down to the truth is important, but it's not the only part of the equation as a guardian. They're naturally risk averse. They want to ask, is it worth the risk and investment? So the steps that we're taking, is it going to work? Before I put all my energy behind this idea, I want to make sure it's going to work. Because they bring so much value, and they understand that if they commit to a project, they will get it done on time and on budget. They're careful what they commit to, because once they commit, they will get it done. They respect and value logic, order, systems, and repeatable processes. How valuable to a family or an organization when they are able to build those systems that continue on year after year, and they're repeatable processes that really make the world go round at the end of the day. One of their challenges, their desire for truth and right decisions, can sometimes override the feelings of others. And so one of the challenges they will have is to recognize the value of people, understanding that they have value, and getting to the right decision isn't the only part of the equation. And so they have to realize that and recognize that people are valuable. And a healthy guardian is a very big impact, has a very big impact on a company, but they must be healthy. They can be right and wrong at the same time. So a guardian has to learn that tone and tact. Yes, you are exactly right. This did not work. We didn't come in on budget, but it was because of some kind of impact that we made on people. And so realizing that and being able to navigate that for a guardian is really important. Quick snapshot of the guardian. You'll notice that population amount, 30%. So this is a pretty good chunk of the population. Between this and the guardian and the nurturer is a pretty good portion of the population. They're champion of that due diligence, resources, and efficient systems and processes. They have to watch out for being risk averse and can be negative and bring excess critique. So they have to be careful of that. Those good questions, those clarifying questions can kind of turn bad if they're not careful, and so be aware of that. And then how do you empower them? Welcome their challenging critique and commitment to due diligence. Realize that the guardian is not against you. They just want to make sure this idea is going to work before they commit all their resources and time and energy to it. So just to be aware, the guardian is so powerful, so strong in an organization when they're healthy. The fourth voice that we're going to talk about is the connector. The connector is the champion of relational networks, internal collaboration, and effective communication. A powerhouse for any organization. The connector can be persuasive and inspirational in their communication. They can rally people to causes they believe in. So if they believe in something, they're going to share in a powerful way, trying to make an impact and wanting you to experience what they've experienced. They are incredibly resourceful. Whatever we need, I can get it, or I have a source. So what you'll notice with a connector is that they're natural marketers and salespeople, but don't you ever dare call them a salesperson, because they're simply sharing their ideas and the things that they enjoy in life. They want to share them with you, and they have a source for everything. So they have a guy, they have a girl, they know exactly who you need to meet in order to solve your challenges, or someone that you would get along with well. So the connector is very good at making those connections. They have the capacity to maintain a large number of relationships. They're gatherers of people. So if you want to start a group or you want to start a business, a connector is a great person to have on your team to get the word out, because they love that gathering of people. And this is like breathing to them. Just like some of the other voices have gifts, the connector is just able to do it. It may be difficult for another voice, but connector enjoys it, they're good at it, and it comes natural to them. They know how to connect with people and their aspirations. Like I said, they're natural marketers. So they're able to make those connections, understanding people. They're a very people-centric voice. So they understand people on this side and that side, and they want to see the impact of those people making connections. And a lot of times you'll see them as the nucleus of a lot of groups and people, and then all those friends and people kind of surround them. They usually have lots of friends and maybe just a few close friends, but lots of acquaintances. They enjoy when others notice the key connections they have made. Obviously, they value those connections, so they love it when you can recognize, hey, thanks for introducing me to John. It led to a job for me, and I really appreciate that. So just a kind word like that, recognizing their contribution and their connection, will light them up. So let me encourage you to do that with a connector. Challenges, their people-pleasing tendencies mean they can struggle to bring effective challenge. And so they don't like that conflict. Kind of think back to the nurturer a little bit, where they sometimes can avoid that conflict and may turn to passive-aggressive tendencies because they don't want that conflict. They enjoy those relationships so much, they don't want to do anything to distract from those relationships or affect that great relationships they have. They often struggle to hear or engage fully with critical feedback. You got to remember, a connector is sharing straight from their heart So when they feel like you're attacking that idea or that concept that they're sharing, it can feel like very critical feedback. And so they have to be aware of that tendency of their own. And obviously when you're working along with a connector or in a relationship with them, you have to be aware of that and certainly value them and be willing to give them feedback, but first value their ideas because they're truly sharing from their heart. Here's a little snapshot of the connector. So the connector is 11% of the population, so a little bit smaller than the guardian. They're champion of those relational networks, internal collaboration, and effective communication. Great communicators. They have to watch out for that interpreting challenge of their ideas as personal. So just because someone doesn't like your idea doesn't mean it's a personal attack. How do you empower them? Give them time to share their ideas. Most of the time, this is verbal. They love verbalizing their ideas and passions and appreciate before you critique. So value their contribution and then give them some feedback on their idea. So the final voice is the pioneer. The pioneer is the champion of strategic vision, results focus, and problem solving. They love to solve problems. They approach life with an anything is possible attitude. So give them a challenge and they will light up. They love to try to make the best out of things and accomplish those big goals. Visioning and shaping a scalable future is always the highest priority. One of the illustrations I love to use with a pioneer is that you'll see a huge foundation on the ground and maybe just a little small house or a little straw hut. And the pioneer is communicating to you that this is going to be a huge skyscraper that's going to change the world, and they have this huge foundation ready for it, and they can already see it up there. Meanwhile, all you're looking at is this little straw house, and you're just thinking, I don't see it quite yet, but the pioneer is already there. They're already seeing the future in that way. And so that's a good way to understand the pioneer. Their strategic military thinking makes them incredibly effective at aligning people, systems, and resources. They may struggle to relax because their mind is always thinking of solving things or that strategic part of their life, trying to make the best out of everything, and so they can struggle to relax sometimes. Winning is a massive driver for a pioneer. They hate to give up and will drive their team long after others would have given up. So they can almost put people on their back a little bit and say, hey, we're going to do this. And it may not make sense to everyone else, but they want to win so badly that they will do whatever it takes to get across the finish line. They're powerful communicators using logic and rationality to provide an attractive and compelling vision of the future. And so the ability for them to communicate will be really key for them, because if in their mind they have this skyscraper but they're not able to communicate it to other people, then there's going to be a challenge there. But the more they can communicate and get people on board, the more success they're going to have. And to truly value the other voices, the pioneer can sometimes struggle valuing every other voice because they have their vision and their mission in mind. And that kind of takes us to some of the challenges. They can appear arrogant with a me-focused agenda. Once again, just like the other voices, it's maybe not intentional, but they can come across as me-focused because it's all about their mission, the direction they're going, and so they have to be aware of that as a challenge. They can quickly dismiss the contributions of those they don't believe to be competent or experienced. And the irony for a pioneer is it doesn't matter if everyone else sees this person as competent. If they don't see the person as competent, they dismiss their ideas. And obviously you're gonna miss a lot of opportunities and great ideas when you're just dismissing from your own perspective. So they have to be aware of that and realize they're not the only ones with the best ideas. And so a pioneer is able to do great things, but they have to be aware of some of those challenges in their life. And here's a quick overview of the pioneer. So obviously you see the voice volume is very high, a very forceful type of voice. Their population size is 7%, and so pretty small, the smallest portion of the population of any of the voices. Champion of strategic vision, results focused, and problem solving. They have to watch out for that lack of sensitivity, can be unwilling to listen, and at times perceived as arrogant. So they can be aware of that. And then how do you empower them? Don't worry. A pioneer will empower themselves, just affirm their competence. That's the key to a pioneer. If you want to unlock a pioneer, you have a pioneer on your team, keep affirming when they're competent, and that will light them up and make them want to do even more. And then maybe if you're led by a pioneer, just be aware that they are looking for ways to move towards competence for themselves and for their team. That is how they see the world, is through the eyes of competence. So now we want to put it all together, and you can really go back through each of the voices and think about how you rated each voice, green, yellow, or red. And so you can see the graphic here. You can kind of go through whatever greens you had and then on down to the red. Really focus on those first two, especially the first, identify that foundational voice. And the other ones, as you go through the other workshops, will definitely clear up. And it's important to know the numbers and going through each one, but especially right now, focus on that foundational voice. Identify that voice that was very easy for you to access. This is where I would love to answer some questions if you want to reach out and say, hey, I'm kind of between these two voices. Certainly I've done this for a lot of people, so I can ask you some questions that will help clarify it for you and for your team. And identifying the list and the order of your voices is so important. So I want you to take this time then and write down your voice order. So I want you to be able to take something away from this workshop today that's going to make you a better leader, a better person, so you can understand yourself, so you can lead yourself. Know yourself to lead yourself. Not only that, you're going to be able to look at your team and look at those people around you, maybe a partner or someone in your workplace, and you're going to be able to understand them better, but also understand what it's like to sit across from you. So what is it like for them to try to understand you? Are you being as clear as you thought you were? Those are some of the ways that I've used this workshop, and owning my voice has been so key to helping unlock other people. It's because I can understand how they're perceiving me, what they're hearing me say, and then I'm also able to understand them better, understanding their view of the world and the way they see life makes a huge difference and can impact, obviously, your team, your organization, and of course, your personal life. I'd love for you to talk through this with someone. I'd be glad to be that person for you, or a spouse or partner, and then share it with them, share some of the insights you've gotten, and make it just very applicable. Make sure that you are using this, something you can use today. Look through those show notes and you'll see some of those development plan opportunities. Thanks so much for watching, and I'm glad you're taking the time to work on yourself, to understand yourself better, understand your team better, and this will make a huge impact on the emotional intelligence that you have personally and that other people experience when they're sitting across from you. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.